Anna is a business unit manager at Johnson& Johnson Innovative Medicine in Brussels, where she's taken on a new role leading the hematology portfolio. She spent over 8 years in Johnson& Johnson across sales, marketing, and strategy, including running the lymphoma business for both Belgium and Luxembourg. Before healthcare, she's built her foundation in finance. In her own words, when I was actually learning about Anna on her LinkedIn, she says that she loves bringing people, purpose, and performance together, which I thought was really lovely. She seems really curious by nature, and she's all about continuous learning, honest collaboration, and delivering results. Anna, super glad to have you here, and I'll just give it over to you to introduce yourself with a few words and what you do in your spare time.
My name is Anna Tacconi da Verna. I am Italian, as you may guess from my surname and my accent. Currently, as Tuti mentioned, I live in Brussels, and indeed I'm leading the hematology department at Johnson& Johnson. I moved a few months ago to this new role, and I lead a team of 16 people. They are working in sales and marketing, but I'm also leading our cross-functional strategy, and hematology is the biggest therapeutic area in Johnson& Johnson and the biggest business driver. So now I have a bit more pressure than I used to have before. But indeed, Stuti mentioned that I started my career in finance. I actually studied economic and finance in Italy at Bocconi. Then I moved to international management, and after I started my career back to finance. But indeed, after a few years in finance, I decided that I wanted more. I wanted to work in an area that would give me more sense of purpose, even though I loved working at Volvo. I had good colleagues and a good career path, but I felt that I was really lacking something. So then I decided to take a step back and started a full-time MBA where I met Sindhu, actually. So we were in the same class. And during the MBA, I took really time to explore multiple industry, getting to know people. And then I came across healthcare almost by chance. And I decided to give it a try because I felt that everybody working in healthcare was so passionate about patients and about their jobs. And I thought, I want to do the same. I want that spark and that passion as well. And then I was lucky indeed because Johnson& Johnson has a development program for MBA graduates, not necessarily coming from pharma. So I took my chances there, and I started my career in 2018 at Johnson& Johnson. And my first role was that of a project manager. And that was great because I had basically zero pharma experience, but I had my education, my MBA and background, so I could do project management. And that was a very nice win-win because I could leverage my skills, but also take really the time to learn about pharma, about the company, getting to know people. And ultimately, I realized that I wanted to go more towards a commercial career and a strategic career. And so after this graduate program, then I pivoted into marketing first as a product manager. Then I moved into a people leader role, leading a sales team, which was really uncomfortable because, yeah, everybody was extremely experienced. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome at the time, but we can talk about it if you want more in depth. And then afterwards, I managed to land the business unit manager role, first in a smaller business, which is the lymphoma one. So I was leading a small team, and then after a bit more than 2 years, now I'm moving to the hematology portfolio, which is a much bigger business. So um, overall, lots of different things, and happy to go more in depth in some of those. But every step was very meaningful. And besides my career in Brussels, I'm also leading a community of alumni of my first university, which is Bocconi, which is also something very interesting and a good combo with the business role as well. I have a son also of 2 years. Um, is fantastic, but he's starting some tantrums, so it's always not easy to manage at times. And then I try also to do some sport to keep my body and my mind healthy.
Awesome. That's such a lovely introduction. And as we speak, Anna is in a fitness studio. She was just telling me about it before we were having this
Indeed,
conversation.
I'm
Yeah.
joining from my gym.
That gives
Yeah.
me inspiration to start gymming in the afternoons. I've been off it for a while now. You're also a multilingual speaker, right? You speak a bunch of languages. Um, I read that somewhere on your LinkedIn. How many languages do you speak?
Yes, so I speak Italian, of course, it's my main language, and English. And then being in Brussels, I learned French here, and having lived in Barcelona, I also learned Spanish. Now I have to say that Italian, Spanish, and French are quite similar, so maybe I'm cheating a little bit. But I'm also learning Dutch for my current role because, as you may know, Belgium is bilingual. So part of
Hmm.
Belgium is French speaking, part of Belgium is Dutch speaking, and there I see I struggle much more, but it's work in progress.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks for that. And I think you've set us very well with the kind of background you shared in terms of your career, and there's lots to dig into. But I just want to start with this early question. Something that stood out to me when I was essentially reading about you is the kind of education as well as professional experiences you've had in the last decade. It spanned different countries, it's also spanned different degrees. So what was your motivation? I know that you did mention it briefly. What was your motivation to do a double master's after pursuing a bachelor's in economics and finance early on? And then later in your career, what were some of the turning or the defining points that maybe made you think that, hey, I also need to sort of move into doing a master's or an MBA, so on and so forth. I'm sure a lot of folks are somewhere in the mid-career journey as well as late career, and they're thinking about formal education. So would love to just
Yeah.
hear your thinking about around it.
Yeah, sure. So to answer the first question, during my bachelor degree in Italy, I had the opportunity to do an exchange program, and it was a 6 months opportunity abroad. And at that time, I decided to take it and to go to a non-conventional destination, so to say, because I chose Moscow, Russia. And that is because, okay, when I was younger, I really liked Russian literature and Russian culture. So when there was this opportunity to go there, I definitely took it. And I really loved being abroad. I liked meeting people with different background, different experiences, and I thought and I saw that I was really learning a lot from that. I was learning to be autonomous, but also to be more flexible and to really learn to cope with different cultures and to be stimulated by new ways of working and thinking. So after this experience, I decided that I wanted more, and that is why I decided to go for a master's degree, which was a very much an international one. I studied CEMS. Some of you may know it, but it's a double degree, and half of it was in Ireland, half of it was in the Netherlands. And our class was fully international. The topic was international business, so definitely I was exposed a lot to that, and I believe it gave me a very international mindset, but also reinforced the confidence that I could also work across cultures in the future. Um, so that's the first question, the first answer. Then you asked me, Stuti, about some turning points in my career, and I would say definitely, as I alluded to, the first one that stands out to me is when I left a comfortable job, a well-paid job, in a role where I was progressing career-wise in finance at Volvo, to pursue an MBA and to really take a leap of faith, to quote also the group. that we are discussing with today. So that was really a career reset, a moment of doubt because I stopped earning money to find a sense of purpose, but ultimately it was so worth it to take this risk. I learned so much, and it's thanks to the courage that I had there that I have a career that I have today. Um, and then maybe another turning point is also when I moved from the previous role to the current role. Um, at the beginning, I thought, okay, why do I have to be again a business unit manager? I was already a business unit manager before, but now I manage much bigger team, a much more complex portfolio with a lot of pressure to deliver today, but also a lot of pipeline compounds that are coming tomorrow. So there is much more complexity, um, and I realized, okay, I really needed this step if I wanted to grow. So I went to leading a team to really owning a big business end to end, and this is a very nice transition um, that is enriching me a lot.
Awesome. It's very interesting how you talk about some of the decisions as well as the uncertainties that you faced at every point when you shifted or pivoted in your career. Something that was super interesting about your journey when I was looking at it and reflecting on my own was also the fact that you experimented both with functions in terms of moving from sales to marketing to finance as well, which is a hard skill, to also moving different industries from finance to healthcare.
Yeah.
So, across these both things, what were some of the similarities across the functions that you worked in, and what was completely different when you pivoted and made you feel like, okay, this is where I have to maybe start from scratch?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say for me, it's like I like to stay in a role until I'm learning from the role, and then when I feel that the learning curve is becoming flat, then I feel okay. Now I have to go for something different, for a next opportunity that would enrich me. But I always try to have an end goal in mind. So and to have really a final career aspiration, even though it may not materialize. But for instance, my dream is to become a managing director one day. So then what I try to think about is not really of roles, but okay, what are the different building blocks that I need to get in my backpack in order to get there? And that may translate into roles ultimately. So I know that, for instance, I have to have a people management experience, that I have to live abroad, so experience a different culture. I need to have like a portfolio experience, and all these different experiences. Then I try to think about these blocks when going for the next role, and still it's still important to have some flexibility, right? Because you may have still a very north star that is very clear in your mind, but then sometimes how to get there may be quite unexpected. So I would say have an idea in mind, think about building blocks, but also have some flexibility to move the journey and to be open to some experience that you may not have think about.
I think that's especially interesting because we're moving towards uh, a world that's increasingly becoming disrupted today. So the ability to
Absolutely. Yeah.
be uh, moldable and to envelop yourself in the context of the situation,
Yeah.
um, and be willing to learn different skills is very interesting. I myself
Yeah.
have been,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I can completely relate with that. And I myself have also been part of the marketing function. And when
Uh-huh.
you
Okay.
spoke about your marketing to sales sort of evolution, it feels like a natural transition, even though they're often treated as separate functions. And if you do like in terms of some of the skills you also spoke about, it seems like people management, it seems like the ability to get things done and be operationally sound with the kind of work you're made responsible for are sort of principles that stay across functions? Are there some other things that you also think translate across different roles or functions,
Absolutely.
whatever you do?
Yeah. Yeah. In every new role or new experience, there may be, or what I experience at least, is that I would have a little bit of imposter syndrome or somehow an inner critic that materializes. This is something that happened in finance roles, in sales role, in the marketing roles, and then I realized over time that this inner critic is what slowed me down the most. It was not about other people, it was really what was in my head. So then I realized, okay, I am my toughest critic. So either I can shut down this voice and just move on, or I can change the narrative that the voice has and rather transform it into a voice that pushes me forward, that cheers for me, that supports me. So this is something that whenever I transition to a new role, I have to be really mindful about not being overcritic towards myself, but rather realize that I am being that critical person and to change
Mhm.
that voice. So this is something that happens a lot. Um, and then something that I think it's a second element that is also applicable across whatever new role may pop up, um, is that I realized that actually you don't really need to have all the answers. So nobody expects you to have the answers from the day one, whether it's a people management role or whether it's a functional expert role. Um, the best leaders that I know and that I try to get inspired by are the people who are able to involve others and that are able to collaborate with the right people who can help them answer the questions that may come. So these are two elements I think that are common across each role transition and that I try to keep with me. So manage the inner critic, and then also don't try to get all the answers because that is not really expected, but rather understand who can help you get those answers and learn to collaborate with the people around you.
That's very interesting. And I think when you speak about imposter syndrome, lots of women, actually majority of women that I've spoken to in my network as well, wrestle with this on a daily basis. It's like there's this constant critical voice in your head that tells you
Yeah,
that you're not good enough and you're not doing it enough. And it's sort of one at the same time reassuring to know that you're not alone, but at the same time it feels like it's a journey that you need to get on.
yeah,
And it things may not change tomorrow. It's just a process where you'll have to stick with the idea
yeah,
of
yeah.
like
And
a mental reset.
yeah, and I absolutely agree. I see it not only in myself, but a lot of women around me, and then it really drives me crazy. I don't know why we do that. So that's why I'm very passionate about this topic because around me in Johnson and Johnson, but also everywhere I see there are so many talented women, and I see them being slowed down by themselves. So it's really important to recognize that voice and to either shut it down, but it's hard, or rather keep it, but recognize and try to turn it around. So this
Turn
is
it
really
around.
something that worked with me very well, and I would recommend it to try if you are also facing some imposter syndrome.
Awesome. Thanks. And I'm sure that the folks in the audience also have a couple of questions. We'll move into the AMA now.
I've been curious about the current economy and the current, a lot of things happening, restructuring, and I myself was impacted by one of the restructuring that happened in an organization a few years ago. And so I know that people are trying to like make sure that they are aware of multiple domains and multiple sectors, especially with AI taking over. So I was curious about your impressions of this current state that we are in, especially with your journey that you've come through many, pre-AI times, you've come through many sectors. So what would be some of one of the biggest example you gave was the imposter syndrome, but also in terms of recruiters, in terms of getting their edge in, what would be some of the things that you would recommend people trying to move between sectors?
Yeah. No, thanks a lot, Christina, and sorry to hear about the impact that you had to go through. I do recognize that the current job market is at a pivotal moment, let's say. So it's really at an inflection point. And what I see is that indeed, also with the arrival of AI, it's much easier also to apply to a job. And I have the feeling that we receive also at Johnson and Johnson way more CVs than we did before, and so it's difficult to stand out when applying to a job. So what I would recommend is to, especially in this current environment, is to go back to the basics and go back to the role of the network, because now more than ever, recommendations from colleagues, word of mouth is super, super important to really differentiate a valuable candidate versus this gigantic pool of CVs that is out there. So, and for me, what I try to do, I really try as much as possible, of course, not always easy with job and the mom role and all the other things going on, but I try to keep my network alive. And doesn't mean that you have necessarily to meet a bunch of new people, but really nurture the connections that you have and making sure that you keep them alive, because those are the ones that may help also in the future, of course. So this is something that for me the role of the network is more and more important in the current environment. And then the second element that I would recommend is also that indeed roles are changing. The roles that we have today may not be the roles that we will have even in 2 years' time. So really important to keep curious, keep asking questions, keep the openness to learn new things and not being anchored to old ways of working, because what might have worked in the past clearly will not work as well in the future. So really having this mental curiosity and flexibility is something that is increasingly valuable by recruiters and by the job market. So I would say have that first of all, but then also show it in interview processes or in whatever role you may have. So these are two elements, curiosity and the importance of network, that I would bring forward.
Yeah. Hi, Anna. Thank you for sharing your insights. So I really liked your career trajectory. Like you moved from a very different role to healthcare, and currently I'm also working with like I'm in consulting, and I'm working with a partner who is in healthcare and life sciences.
Yeah, okay.
So this was a sector that I was not very like I was not leaning towards it before because I was like basically doing consumer and retail. But now I also want to work for the end client and do like proper end client consulting. And that is also like impact consulting, something which is also favoring the society. Okay, so I basically want to do a career pivot. So I'm
Mhm.
just my main question would be, like you said that you shifted to a healthcare company. So how do you justify this? Like, because there will be more candidates
Yeah.
with you who are having actual experience in that particular industry. So why would a recruiter or a hiring manager would choose you over them?
Yeah. I think it's a good question, and for sure it's a relevant one, because shifting from a solid and stable career to a new one, it's hard. It's not a given, um, and I would say that there are still some areas that can help. And ultimately, from my side, I was quite lucky because on top of J&J, I had still 4 other offers at that time, I remember, and I still managed to convince some people despite having no pharma background at all. So it is possible. And what I would say is that indeed, there will be other candidates that have that experience that you will not have. So I would say just own that, acknowledge that, but be very clear about two things. One is the why. So what really
Hmm.
drives you to make this career switch, and be passionate about that. Really show the passion, show that you're willing to do it. So tell really your story in a very compelling way. You can practice that over time, and the more interviews you do, the better it will be. So definitely, I would say show your why, show your passion, but also acknowledge, as mentioned, that you may not have that experience, but that you may bring something else to the table, and be very clear and very concrete and very tangible about what are the things that you are bringing. And it may be, I don't know, international experience. It can be, some specific knowledge. It can be like the curiosity. You will know better these parts, but the crisper you are about the why and the what you can bring, the better it will be.
I'm Shubhra, and I have over 10 years of experience in EY consulting. And so basically, I work for investment bankers. I am also a mom to a 2 year old daughter. Uh, Also, last year, I was diagnosed with some health issue, which was kind of very life risking dangerous health issue, but now I am progressing well. So my question here is, as she said that there are like why would a HR or why would a person will pick you over others when you are switching a company? So my question here also adds, like, since with the AI revolution, we again think to, because if I want to switch now and any more any industry, for example, I want to work for Google someday. It's a kind of short term dream for me. Whenever I think, but I do have that question that would I be able to make it, because I have already 10 years of experience in consulting EY, like investment banking, and Google cloud computing. AI is way totally different. Secondly, the AI market has shifted all the sectors across globe. So anything I would be learning, I have to do it from scratch. So I just again and again I have those doubts, imposter syndrome again coming up in my mind, whether I'll be able to make it on, or should I continue in this investment banking role only.
No, thank
So
you for the question. And again, congratulations for your 2-year-old daughter. And sorry to hear about your health issues, but happy to hear that everything seems to be going well. So I think that is
thank
already
you. Thank you.
a very, very nice achievement, I would say, and something to definitely be super proud of. As mentioned, I think it's not easy to switch, but I would perhaps maybe you made already this reflection, but I would think about, okay, what is it Google that you would like, or is it more like a different sector? And probably like something that I would do to check is to meet people also working in Google or in the sector where you'd like to work, just um, to have that experience and that understanding. And I would also try to be vocal, like you're doing now, about your willingness to switch to many people around you, not necessarily only the ones working in the sector of industry or of interest, but also other people, because you never know. And then because the power of network is very important, so definitely that will help. So I would always recommend to follow your gut. So if your gut feeling is telling you, I need to switch career because I'm not currently happy, even if you're earning very well, and you have a stable job, which is not a given in this current environment, I would still follow your gut, because then probably in 5 years time, if you don't do it, you would regret it. So I would say, you can always try, but for sure it will be hard, and having an inner critic will not really help. So it's normal to have doubts, but I would say if you go for it, go 100,000%, and transform that inner critic into somebody that really pushes you forward, and be, as I mentioned before, I would advise to have really a clear narrative about what you can bring and why you want to make this career switch. Have it like super clear and communicate it very broadly to people in the
Right.
industry, but also outside. So these are things that can help. Yeah.
I've had a very fun time just listening to your journey. And so thanks, Anna, for coming in, sharing your experience so candidly, especially about
Absolutely.
things that like imposter syndrome as well. Hope this was
Yeah.
fun for you too.
Absolutely. And maybe, Stuti, if I have time for a last thing that I can add, I'm conscious of time, but something that really helped for me as well, and maybe it's a woman trait, perhaps. Um, I saw that my career was evolving much faster when I realized that I couldn't really please anybody all the time. Because basically, the more senior I got, the more true this became, because there were times also in my career where I was really hesitant about taking decisions because I thought, oh, what others would think. Maybe they will not like me anymore if I take decisions that are too bold. And then I was also paralyzed by it a little bit. And then I realized that, okay, I took no decision because I didn't want to upset people. And then they would still criticize me because I didn't take decisions. And then I thought, okay, um, there will always be reasons to be criticized. So just acknowledging that also you cannot really please everyone all the time really helped me. So being a bit criticized or having an opinion on is part of the job. So I would also say don't worry about that as well. So maybe just something that I felt also sharing in case that may help.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think I can relate to this more than anything else. The ability to be disliked is sometimes a good thing because
Yeah.
you are then liberated from the expectations of
Yes,
other people,
it
and it
really
has to be
helps
said
so
out
much.
loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I can relate to it as much as like the last Friday that I was at work and I was just thinking about what other people would think about a decision that I was making. So I'm sure
Yeah,
that this is something that we'll have to constantly reckon with, and the more conscious we are of these
yeah,
different kinds of challenges we need to internalize or we need to sort of stray away from early on, I think the better it is going to be for our career, like the non-linear paths that you're referring to.
yeah,
So thanks for
absolutely.
sharing that. This
Thank
has
you.
been a very interesting conversation. Anna's LinkedIn profile. Anna, if that's cool in the chat, I've gone ahead and
Sure.
done it. If you do want to connect with her, follow her journey, please do so over there. There's a bunch about Anna that we didn't speak about this in this conversation, like her community building experience. I constantly keep going back to this trifecta of people, performance, purpose, also that you spoke about, and organically the idea of purpose came up when Christina and Shubhra asked their specific questions.
Mm,
But I think there are lots of threads in your journey that folks could relate to, irrespective of us touching on those topics. So really, really appreciate the candid conversation. Anna, any other closing thoughts from you?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Stuti, for the very nice moderation. And thanks to Sindhu for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to everybody here for your openness and your questions. And if there is really anything that you'd like to follow up on with me, I'm very open to continue the conversation. So do not hesitate. And everybody's career is work in progress. So happy to also keep learning from you. So looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Awesome. And folks, just a fun fact for you. When I was talking to Sindhu a couple of months ago about this conversation with Anna, one of the first things that Sindhu said was, "Hey, Anna is really cool to have a conversation with," and that's
Okay,
exactly
thank
the
you,
vibe
Sindhu.
I got.
So thanks a lot. Stuti, you were super cool as well. Anna, very, very cool as always. So thanks a lot. I had a lot of new insights. I'm learning that Anna also goes through imposter syndrome. Anna, I
Yes.
never knew of.
No.
But during
Okay.
our LTA, you were the
Yeah.
most confident. You were like the person I used to look
Oh.
up to because you were like literally my role model. I don't think I ever
Oh.
mentioned that to you, but it's good to hear that you have your own critiques but you keep showing up, right? I think
Thanks.
that's the important
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think another. Thank you for saying that, Sindhu. It's very nice. But I would say fake it till you make it is also a key takeaway from this session. I would say. All right. Wish
Awesome.
you a
Cool.
great weekend, everybody. Hope you have
Thanks,
some
Anna, and
nice
thanks,
plans.
folks.
Yeah.